quick introduction about myself. My name is Peter Schoenfeld. I'm a functional range conditioning mobility specialist, Kinstretch instructor, and I also coach CrossFit. Been doing sports for a very, very long time. I used to also think that my body is unbreakable till I got a little bit older and things started to break, and that's when I started taking movement a bit more seriously. I got into movement mechanics and mobility and Kinstretch in particular to first and foremost help myself get out of injury, but also to try and help other people, whether it's in daily life or in whatever sport that you do, to help you develop more movement capacity, to help you stay more pain-free, and to help you stay injury-free, right? Injuries are not unavoidable entirely. I say that because I have a knee injury at the moment, but we try to mitigate the damages of any injuries that we may get along the way, and we want to try and be a bit more prepared. Okay, so that said, this is Kinstretch. Kinstretch is a movement enhancement system. It is a mobility program, but we combine mobility with strength training, where conventionally we would, for mobility work, we would just get into positions, we would stretch, we would rotate our joints. We are now going into the joints themselves very, very deeply, and we focus on the tissues that we generally don't focus on that are responsible for rotating our joints internally and externally, for flexion, for extension, for supination, pronation, just getting our joints to move a lot better. So what you will learn through Kinstretch is body awareness and control. What I mean by that is you will learn how your joints individually are supposed to move. And if they don't move the way they're supposed to move, how do we get them to move the way they're supposed to move? And how to do so with precision and control, right? So you'll see as we go through the session today, as I take you through some of the movements, some things might feel awkward, right? And that's okay. Part of this practice is getting you to understand your body, to create a mind-body connection so that you can understand how your joints are supposed to move and how you need to alter positions to get your body to move in such a way. We will get flexible in the process because we do a lot of stretching. There are some tissues that we need to stretch, and we stretch them for long periods of time. There is still a lot of confusion in the mobility space about what is the right amount of time to stretch for. Some say 15 seconds is okay, others say 30 seconds, 1 minute. But we actually stretch for a lot more, anywhere between 90 seconds and above 2 minutes. And the reason for that is our bodies, our muscles do not control our flexibility. Our nervous system does. So it's important for me to be able to train my nervous system that it needs to trust me in certain positions. My body's primary job is to keep me safe and to keep me alive. So if it doesn't trust me in a position, it will not grant me access to range in that position. So while I'm generally stretching, I'm putting tension on the body. I'm putting stress into the body. My nervous system doesn't understand different kinds of stress, right? Whether I had a bad day at work, whether I slept poorly, whether I'm stressing the muscles during the workout, to the body, stress is stress. So what we're trying to do through this practice is to say, I'm putting stress onto the body, but through diaphragmatic breathing, calming breathing throughout the stretching process, and that's why breathing is so important. I'm trying to calm my nervous system to tell it that it's okay, I am comfortable, I am safe in this position. And in turn, over time, my nervous system will grant me more and more access to certain ranges of motion, right? So that's a key thing to keep in mind as we go through these stretches. I will keep emphasizing the importance of breathing. We go 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. We're trying to get our body from a state of fight or flight into a more parasympathetic, relaxed state of being. And then finally, Kinstretch is a system that helps us acquire more ranges of motion. If you are already someone that has very good range of motion, you are hypermobile, you can get into positions very easily. The goal of this is still to get you into more positions, but more importantly, build strength in those positions and give you more usable ranges of motion. Whether it is just for daily life, you want to be able to walk without pain. You want to be able to sit on a couch for 20 minutes and stand up and not feel pain in your back or in your hips, right? Just for general, but then also for any sports that you do to give you access to more ranges that you can do your sport effectively and hopefully without a lot of injuries. So that's just a brief intro of what Kinstretch is, why we do it. A couple more things. We do spend a lot of time under tension. As I said, this is mobility, but it's also strength training. And if we do this right, a Kinstretch session could feel like a 1 rep max back squat to my nervous system. So what we are trying to do is, depending on how you feel on the day, you will dial up and dial down the amount of tension that you put into your body based on how you slept, how you ate, how you feel. So as we go through some of these exercises and we create tension, I will say that we will ramp up anywhere from 20% to 100%. My 100% might feel different than your 100%, right? So I need you to be, again, back to the body awareness, be very conscious and body aware of your own body, how we move, where you can move and where you cannot move, so that we ultimately get to a point where this is comfortable for you. The last thing I want to talk about, coupled to that, is pain. And don't be afraid. There are two kinds of pain or discomfort. The first one, which is totally normal and acceptable in this, is we are going to be working in some ranges where you may have not trained at all or in a very long time. So things may feel uncomfortable. You might get cramps in certain stretches. That is normal. If you get a cramp, take a break, rub it until you're ready to go again, and then we go. The one pain I want you to be hyper aware of that we want to stay away from entirely is closed angle joint pain. Our joints move relative to one another in a capsular space, whether it's a ball and socket, whether it's my elbow, whether it's my knee. These joints do not touch and they need to move relative to one another in that space. Now, if I do not have enough range and space in that joint capsule, what happens is on a closing angle, these bones start to press up against each other. What I mean is, if I do a hip internal rotation and I get to a point where it starts to hurt on the inside angle, not the outside angle, that's typically a closing angle push. What that means is there is not enough space for that bone to move into that position. If at any point in time today you feel any sort of that closing angle pain, I do not want you to push through it. I want you to back out. If we're in a movement where you can move around that pain, I want you to do so, because over time, through the rotations that we do, through the isometric training that we do, we will expand that space. And ultimately, as that joint starts to move better, you will open up more space, right? So please be careful of that pain. We do not want to go there today. So that's it with the theory part. I've put a small little program together for today just to focus on a couple of things, right? We start every session with CARs, controlled articular rotations. And that is taking my joints through its full range of motion that I have today. Some of you might have better range on certain joints than others. And it's not a competition to see if your shoulder CAR can look exactly like mine. It is understanding how your joint moves, and over time, how you can improve that joint's movement. So CARs are two things. It is a diagnostic tool. It helps me to assess how my joints move and how I need to make improvements to make the joints move better. But it's also a maintenance tool. It helps me keep my joints oiled, if you will, by doing CARs daily, taking my joints, every joint, neck, shoulders, scap, spine, hips, doesn't matter what, through its full range of motion, because it's like brushing your teeth. You don't have to, but eventually it'll rot. Same thing applies to your joints. If I don't rotate my joints regularly, if I don't move it, I lose it. Over time, that range of motion goes away. So it's a maintenance tool to ensure, just for general purpose, that I have good, healthy joints. All right, so we do that. And then we go into end range positions. We do a bit of strength training. I've got a couple of positions for us. We'll focus on some hips and we'll do some overhead shoulder work, some internal rotation shoulder work. There's a lot of stuff we can do. But for today, this is just really to give you an idea of how we want to move, areas that we can move in, and then we build up from there in future sessions. So I've got a couple of cars that we'll go through. I'll take you through a neck. I'll take you through a glenohumeral joint, your shoulder. We'll do some scaps. We'll do some spine. And then I'll put you into a hip 90-90 position. We'll do some isometric work there. And then we'll get on our bellies and we'll do some shoulder flexion work and some internal rotation strength work. So let me start by taking you through some of this. You can take a look at me first, and then I'll ask you to do it. We'll keep it fairly low tension today, fairly low repetition, just to get you moving. Typically, a program like this could consist of 5 reps, 10 reps, 15 reps, isometric contractions of 15, 20, 30 seconds. That all comes over time. A lot of you that go to the gym, if I do a back squat, you know, if I want to build strength in a back squat, I do so over 12 weeks. I progressively overload tissues over time to build strength and control in those positions. So for the neck car, our neck can move pretty well, right? Our cervical spine can flex, it can extend, and it can rotate. We want to take our neck through its entire range of motion, maximum flexion, maximum extension, and then as much rotation as we can safely get. So what I'll ask you to do is, we want to create tension in our bodies so that I can isolate where I'm currently working. We're going to take, if you have yoga blocks, and I'm going to take one yoga block, squeeze it in between my knees so that I create tension in the lower body. I'm going to create tension in the upper body by taking another block and squeezing it to my chest. So I'm creating full body tension. And then what I'll do from here is I'm going to push my chin as far down towards my chest as I can, right? If you can touch your chest, perfect. From here, I want to slide my chin all the way up until it touches my shoulder. From here, I will dip back into extension as much as I can. Push for extension, rotate around until my chin touches the opposite shoulder. And then I slide it back down to my chest. All the while creating as much tension in my body as I can and focusing on the control of that movement. So you can go through those now. Just give me 2 rotations. So we'll go around the left. When we get to the front, we go around again the other side, and around the other side. Every time you go around, try and fight for as much range as you can. It's not about speed, it's about control. You want to feel every millimeter of movement between the vertebrae. Keep pushing for more range. If you can get a millimeter more flexion every repetition, more lateral flexion, more extension, try and do so safely and feel how your neck moves. Right, just 2 repetitions. When you're done, you can relax. The next one we'll do is a shoulder car. And similarly, I want to create tension. So if you have a ball, we'll use the ball. If you don't, it's not a problem. We can use a fist, but the intention is the same. I want to create tension throughout the entire body so that it irradiates into the joint that I'm trying to move, right? And I can dial up this tension, as I said. I can work at, let's call it the air that you're moving in right now is a 1 out of 10. I should be able to dial that up and down to maybe a 10 out of 10, where it feels like I'm dragging my arm through sludge. And I do so by creating the tension in the muscles to spill that tension into the joint. An important thing about the shoulder is, or in general, when I move a joint, I want to do so with as little compensation as possible. Meaning, if I do a shoulder car and I start to do this, I'm no longer rotating a shoulder. I'm using 3 or 4 other joints to help me move something that's supposed to be a shoulder. When we do the car, and I'll show you in a moment how that works, we want to be able to isolate that joint completely so that it can rotate independently of anything else. Now, if that means your shoulder car looks like this, that's okay. It just means that you don't have enough workspace in that joint to move without the rest of my body helping. And over time, through this practice, that circle will get a lot bigger. So for the shoulder car, we're going to go into the same position. So again, I'm going to squeeze the block in between my thighs to create tension in the lower body. I'll squeeze the ball if I have it, or I'll use my fist to create tension. And I'll start across the midline with my arm and my shoulder completely across the body. From here, I'm going to push, creating tension, push my shoulder all the way up without any compensation in the spine or the scap, all the way up into my maximum flexion before I start to use the rest of my body. From here, I need to start internally rotating my shoulder because it's not going to go through if I don't. At that flexion point, I internally rotate the shoulder to its maximum, start pushing it back, back, keep fighting for that internal rotation until I'm in maximum extension. Keep rotating, and I bring it down to my hip. From here, in reverse, I will push it back into maximum extension, and then I need to externally rotate that shoulder in order for it to come through back into flexion and then back into adduction. Right? I want you to try that. We'll go 2 rotations, so forward and backwards on the right, forward and backwards on the left. And the main thing I want you to focus on is if ever you start to feel that something else is starting to help, move around it. Right? We want to do this with as little compensation as possible. Same thing as with the neck. Try and fight for every millimeter of range, creating tension, fighting not to compensate anywhere, but just to move this joint independently of everything else. So at flexion, we internally rotate the shoulder. From extension coming back, I externally rotate the shoulder. If you feel some clicks along the way, that's probably normal. It just means you found some areas within your shoulder that you may not have used in a while, and that range now needs to be reopened. If you feel a closing angle pain, like I said earlier, move around it. So if I get from extension into external rotation, this being now the closing angle, and you feel a pinch, don't push through, move around it. Just 2 on each side, and then you can relax. Very good. Right, I see a lot of this happening, so something is working. Right. Okay, let's get into scapular cars. I'm going to turn away from the camera for a second. And again, as I said from the beginning, we're working under tension the whole time. So you're probably building up a sweat already. That's not a bad thing. I'm going to go into that same kneeling position. I'm going to squeeze the block in between my knees. I'm going to use this block as a steering wheel, and we're going to do some scapular cars. My scaps can protract, meaning it glides around the rib cage forward. It can retract, so squeezing the shoulder blades together. It can elevate and it can depress. So what we're going to do through this is I'm going to take it through the same rotation. I'm going to start in a fully protracted position. Again, not using my spine, blocking my spine, pressing, protracting as much as I can. Then I'll elevate. Then I'll retract. Then I'll depress. Protract, elevate, retract, depress. And then in reverse, elevate, protract, depress, retract. Okay? Go through those, 2 forwards, 2 backwards. Find as much range as you can with as little compensation as possible. So we're just here. I'm creating tension in the block. I'm pushing my shoulder blades forward. I'm lifting them up, I'm pulling them back, and I'm pressing them into my back pocket. Try and keep your elbows nice and straight, shoulders locked out. The movement is in the back, not through these joints. Good. And relax there. We'll do one more. Just for the sake of time, I wanted to do a spine as well. I'll quickly show you the spine, and then obviously you can do it as well. But since we're going to be spending quite a bit of time on the hip strengthening, I want to move into the hip car. The spine, very similar to the neck. My spine is divided into three parts. I have the cervical, I have the thoracic in the middle, and then the lumbar at the bottom. Even though these are three sections, a lot of people think that those sections move as a whole. Each of the vertebrae in each of those sections should be able to move independently from one another, whether it's a millimeter or a fraction of a millimeter. And what we're trying to do through the spine car, through flexion, through extension, through lateral flexion and rotation, is we want to create that movement. So I'll do the same. I'll squeeze the block in between my knees. I'll create tension in the upper body. And I'm going to start pressing my spine into flexion. The goal here is not to let the hips help with the movement. I'll squeeze the block and I'll press my spine into maximum flexion. From here, I'll start turning until a point where I get to maximum lateral flexion. I'll start rotating around until I get to maximum extension, fighting for every millimeter of range. Rotate around to lateral flexion on the other side. Rotate. Bring it forward into maximum flexion again. And stop. Go through just one rep while we're doing it. Go through one rep. The main thing I want you to focus on is that my hips are not doing this. This is why we're blocking. And I want you to feel that it's only your spine moving around its full range of motion. Slow and controlled. Feel the movement. Very good. So we're doing minimal reps of these, right? But you can do as many as you need to. I know we did 2 rotations of the neck, 2 rotations of the shoulder, 1 rotation of the spine. But if this is a daily routine that you do, a CARS routine, you can take every single joint in your body, even your big toe, through rotational movement, spend 1 or 2 minutes on each joint, and that's a maintenance tool. The last one I'll show you is a hip car. So if you have, we'll do a standing one. So if you have something that you can hold on to, a wall, a friend, a dowel, we can do so. So I want you to find a place, a bench, anything that you can hold on to. The hip car is taking my hip joint through external and internal rotation. Right? So the hip car starts like this. I'm going to create tension in the body. Whatever I'm holding on to, I'm squeezing so that I have tension. I'm going to start with my knee here, externally rotated, meaning my hip joint is turning this way. I'm going to externally rotate that hip, and I'll pull it into as much flexion as I can. Then I'll abduct. So abduct, pushing open. Again, try not to let the pelvis and the spine help. From here, I'll internally rotate as much as I can, and then I start pushing it back, keeping that internal rotation, fighting for as much internal rotation as I can until I'm at the bottom position. From here, I reverse. I keep fighting for that internal rotation, keep fighting until I get to a point where I've reached my maximum internal, and then I'll adduct, bring it back to the center, externally rotate, and back down. That's 1 repetition. Just go through 1 on the left, 1 on the right. Same thing, slow and controlled. Fight for maximum external rotation on the up, maximum flexion, maximum abduction, internal rotation, internal rotation, internal rotation. And then back, internal, 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 abduct into flexion, external rotation. Okay, and again here, become very body aware of when I start to move into certain positions, if I feel that my spine is starting to help or my pelvis is starting to move, that I start that rotation a little early, because what we want to try and focus on here is having that joint move by itself without anything else moving. If I keep working with that compensation, I'm not training the hip joint in the way that I want to train it. So just one on each leg. All right. So those are the cars. I can still do cars for my elbow, for my wrist, for my knee, for my ankle, for my toes. There's a lot of stuff that we can do. I just focused on a few for today. Now we can get into the strength training part. The position I want us to focus on today is we're going to do some hip internal and external rotation isometrics. We'll do some hip flexion. I'm going to ask you to get into a 90-90 position. 90-90 being, I've got my front leg coming out of my torso perpendicularly, making a 90-degree angle with my shin. The back leg perpendicularly out of the hip, making a 90-degree angle with my shin. If I were to draw a line between that heel and this heel, these two need to be in line. If you are lacking so the front leg is external rotation, the back leg is internal rotation. If you're lacking some of that rotation at the moment, you can use your blocks just to elevate that knee a little bit, kind of pulling it back in reverse of that internal or external rotation. Okay, so the drills we're going to do today is we want to focus on the rotational tissue of that joint. So the tissue that's responsible for externally rotating and internally rotating the joint. Before we do so, as I said in the beginning, we go into passive stretching, right? So I'm now in a position passively, right? The floor is the external force that is helping me to get into this position. Now, while I'm in this position, since we're going to focus on the external rotated leg, we're going to find a position where we want to stretch the long tissue around the joint. So your glute, your hamstring, and we do so by pressing our body forward into that joint. What I don't want you to do is, especially if you're quite mobile and quite flexible, is to just get into this position and lie down. I want you to try and think, keeping my torso upright, so belly button and chest, pressing forward as opposed to pressing down. So I want to create that tension. If you want to get a further, even better stretch, I want you to think about pushing your tailbone out to the back. So creating a posterior tilt while I'm pressing forward. While you're in that position, I want you to scan. By scan, I mean, when we talk about stretching the glute or stretching the hamstring, people think it's one big muscle. We've called it one big muscle. But if I stretch it in different positions, I'm stretching thousands of different tissues and fibers in that muscle. No one stretch of the hamstring will fire exactly the same tissue every time. So what I'm trying to do in this position is I'm trying to stretch as much of that tissue as I can throughout the 2 minutes that we're going to sit here. And I want you to find the places that you get the best stretch out of those tissues. We're going to hold it there for another 90 seconds or so. And then we'll get into the Pales rails contraction. So while you're stretching, I'm going to explain. The Pales is using that tissue that we've just stretched, or that we're stretching now, to help me drive this ankle into the floor. So I want to create that rotation. That's the first one. So we're going to go into a Pales contraction. I'll tell you when, where I'm trying to rotate that ankle into the floor. We're going to ramp up that contraction 20%, 40%, 60%, maximum safest effort. And then we'll hold that contraction. We'll keep pushing for 10 seconds. Then immediately, we're going to reverse using the regressive tissue and trying to lift that ankle off the floor. Not the entire leg. I want to activate the rotational tissue, so I'm trying to just lift through this knee, lift that ankle off the floor. We will do the same. We'll ramp it up. We'll hold that contraction for a few seconds, and then we'll relax. Right, so get ready. Because we're creating tension, I want you to create tension. We'll take a deep breath in. We'll pack air down. We'll create a good tension in the torso, just enough so that I can still breathe, right? I don't want you to hold your breath, but I want to still be able to breathe while I'm doing this. So pack the air down, create tension, start ramping up that contraction. Think of pushing your ankle into the floor. Ramp it up 20%, 40, 60, 80, maximum and safest effort. Keep pushing that ankle down, keep pushing, keep pushing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now immediately reverse. Try and lift that ankle off the floor. Ramp it up 40%, 60, maximum safest effort and hold. Keep pulling that ankle up. Keep pulling, keep pulling. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And softly relax. We're just going to do one repetition there because we're starting. But what I would typically do is, while I'm still in this passive range, I'll rest 30 seconds, then I'll do another contraction. 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Rest 30 seconds, another contraction. As many as I need to. As I progressively start to overload that tissue, I can increase the time under tension and I can increase the amount of reps that I do. Good? Right, relax there. So that's external rotation. Let's move over to the opposite side, where I'm going to do the same thing. Now, I'm not going to go through that full 2-minute stretch right now, but what I would typically do, on external, I was here. On internal, I want you to try and get your torso across into this leg as much as you can, because the more I turn, the more this hip goes into internal rotation. And I would typically then sit here for 2 minutes. I can even lean into that hip to give me even more internal rotation. If this angle is hard in the beginning, right, we can use our hands to position ourselves better initially, right? If you've got a block under here, like I said earlier, that's my maximum internal rotation today. But I want to fight every rep to try and get a millimeter closer every day so that I can improve that rotation. We're going to do the same thing here. We'll do a Pales Rails contraction, where this is the axis of rotation. We're going to try and push that ankle into the floor, and then immediately we're going to reverse it, trying to do that. But because I'm in or near my end range, you try and move that foot now, you're probably going to stare at it and nothing's happening. And that's normal. It shouldn't move if I'm at my end range. Right, so let's take a deep breath in. We pack that air down, we create tension, and start ramping up that contraction. Try and rotate externally to push that heel into the floor. 40%, 60, 80, maximum safest effort. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse. Try now get this ankle off the floor. Right? Try and keep your body in the same position. Try and rotate that ankle off. Ramp it up. Get it to your maximum safest effort. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Good. Take a breath there. We're going to switch it over to the other side so that we can do the same on the other. I've done internal, external. Now I want to do internal, external. Right. So from here, I want to transition rather actively, right? I'm doing strength training. So I want you to think about getting to the other side as actively as possible. To do so, I'll start externally rotating this hip until I get to a point where that's not going to go any further until this one comes along. So I'm going to keep pushing this leg out. I'm going to keep fighting for tension in this leg, and I'm going to start rotating, fighting for opposite rotational tension as I go around. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. Press this knee into the floor. Fight for rotation on the other leg as that comes across and down. And now I'm into 90-90 in the opposite side. My leg that was internally rotated is now external, and the one that was external is now internal. So we'll go into the same stretch we did on the other one. We're going to find that good position on the external rotated leg. Belly button and chest forward. Find that stretch. Scan that position so you can get as much tension out of that tissue as you can. And we'll hold it there. Remember to breathe throughout the process. I know I haven't said it often enough, but as I said in the beginning, I'm putting stress on my nervous system. I need to try and calm it down. So it's basically like hitting it with a sledgehammer, but telling it it's okay, it's safe. So we want to go 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out while I'm in that stress position, telling my nervous system that it's okay, it's safe, you can give me access to this range. Right, so we'll hold it there. Another 45 seconds. Keep scanning. Keep pushing your tailbone out. Keep pushing your chest forward. Find that position. Stretch as much of that lengthened tissue that you can. Right, let's get ready. We're going to go through the same contractions. So I'm first going to try and push this foot through the floor, and then immediately reverse trying to get this ankle off the floor. So I want to focus on that rotation, internal of the hip, and the opposite rotational tissue. So we get ready. We take a deep breath in. I pack the air down into my abdomen, creating tension. I'm even using my hands, screwing them into the floor to create even further tension in the upper body. And I'm going to start ramping up that contraction. So start pushing it down, 20%, 40, 60, 80, maximum safest effort. Keep pushing down, keep pushing down. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse. Try and get that ankle off the floor. Using this tissue to try and rotate. Even though it doesn't move, I'm using the same tissue to try to get it to move. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And relax out of that slowly. Right, let's go over to the back leg. We'll do the same thing. Want to find that nice upright torso or whatever that is for you. If that position is there today, that's okay. I want to turn into that hip so that I can get maximum internal rotation passively. So in that position, same thing. We're going to go through the same contraction. We take a deep breath in. We pack the air down. We create tension, screwing my hands into the floor to create more upper body tension and start pressing that ankle into the floor. Ramp it up 20%, 40, 60. Maximum safest effort. Keep pushing, keep pushing, keep pushing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse. Try and lift that ankle off the floor. Rotating the hip this way. Keep pushing. Or keep pulling. Hold it. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax into that passive position. Good. Take a break there. You can get yourself out of this for now, slowly, if you're stuck. You should by now start to feel these tissues fired up. All the hip flexors, all the deep stabilizers, all the connective tissue around the joint that we generally don't train when I'm doing back squats and front squats and lunges and those types of things. So you should feel that. Okay, we'll do one more on the hip, which is a bit more focused on flexion. We've done a lot of rotational work now. As I said, I think I mentioned it in the beginning. For our joints, we try and focus on rotation first, always. We try and get the rotational tissue, then we do linear. Except with the spine. The spine, we do linear first and then rotation. So when we do spinal segmentation, where I think of a cat-cow position, but not entirely. But I'm trying to move each vertebrae from my lumbar spine through my thoracic into my cervical, one joint at a time, linearly, right? And then we do rotation. So we don't need the block. We're going to get into a figure 4 position, which is whichever leg you go first, doesn't matter. I want to have one leg fully extended. The other leg, like I said, I don't really care where that one is. The more closed this angle, the harder it's going to be for me to lift that leg. The more open that angle, the easier it is. But what I don't want to see is you being able to do that. That's not the stimulus. I'm trying to put as much tension on that tissue as I can. So I want to think of lifting it off the floor 2-3 inches. From there, we're going to go into a hover. Then I'm going to bring that heel in without touching the floor into maximum knee and hip flexion without moving my torso too much. I'm going to squeeze for that flexion, hold it for 3 seconds, and then control it back down, set it down on the floor. That's 1 rep. We're going to go through just 3 of those. So the goal is find a position, slow and controlled up, creating tension, bringing that knee and hip into full flexion. Keep pulling it closer as much as you can. Hold for 3 seconds. Control it back down into extension and not set it down softly. I want to create that control. So go for 3 reps on the one side. As I said, find your tension position for today. If it's here, that's okay. I want us to focus on that regressive tissue, to lift, to flex and hold, keep pressing that flex, to extend, and to release. So just 3 reps, up into flexion, keep squeezing, get maximum flexion that you can, hold, and then release. Okay, and then we do the other side, same thing. I'm in that figure 4 position. This leg doesn't matter, right, at this point in time. This is just for me to have a comfortable way. But while it's there, it is externally rotated. So every base position we work in, to a degree, has a purpose. If I wanted to, just food for thought, if I wanted to make this position harder, eventually, I can put that foot on a block. Now I'm forcing this leg into further external rotation while I'm working on hip flexion here. So we do the same thing. We're going to create that maximum tension to lift, flex and hold, extend, and control down. Try and be hard on yourself. This training is only going to be as hard as you allow it to be. Some of it's uncomfortable, I know. But that's where change happens, is when we challenge ourselves to do hard stuff. So if today, as I said, nervous system is not feeling it, keep the tension where you feel you need to, but always keep challenging yourself to find that extra range, to fight for that extra millimeter. Very good. All right. Let's leave the hips alone. I think we've given them enough for today. I'll take you through one shoulder. We still have another 7 or 8 minutes to go. So we're going to focus on some shoulder flexion. So that position. And I mean that position before that starts to happen. A lot of people have fantastic hip flexion, shoulder flexion, because their spine can extend an enormous amount. Once we start to block the spine and people go here, they're like, oh, hang on, I don't have flexion anymore. And that's what we're trying to get to. So we're going to go into a prone position. So we're going to go flat on the floor, facing down. I can use the opposite arm as a little pillow. And then we're going to use our block. See if I can get back a little further. To get this arm into as much passive range flexion that I can. Now, if I need to lift the block up this way, or if I need to lift the block up this way, or I need to use 2 or 3 blocks, that's okay. But I want you to get into that position without my spine having to twist. I just want to use the shoulder, right? So wherever that is for you, get it into that position, and we'll hold that stretch in maximum end range flexion for 2 minutes. At the end of the 2 minutes, we're going to do a pales rails contraction. So I'm going to try and press this block into the floor. We're going to do the same, ramp up the tension, the intensity. And at the end of it, when we reverse, I want you to try and lift that arm up even further from the block. Now, if you're at your end range, it might not move, but I'm still activating the tissues here to get it to move. If you get it to move and it's 3 millimeters, that's okay. We're going to keep pushing, holding that contraction, and then we relax. So get into that position, chest on the floor, focus on not getting my spine to extend, elbow locked out, wrist locked out. I just want to get that maximum range and hold that stretch. That can be here. It can be here. It all depends on what you have access to today. But the focus is getting that flexion. And the same thing applies. While you're in that position, scan. Supinate your wrist, pronate, feel where's a good position. Trying to stretch as much tissue as you can on the backside. Find the best position for you. Remember to breathe. Nice, slow and controlled in. Double the time out. Get ready for that contraction. As I said, first is we're going to try and, keeping a straight elbow, try and press that block into the floor. Karate chopping the block into the floor. And we're going to ramp up that tension, 20, 40, 80, maximum safest effort, and immediately reverse, trying to lift that arm off the block. So take a deep breath in, back the air down into the abdomen, create tension. You can use your other arm that's underneath your head to squeeze and start ramping up that contraction. Press the block into the floor, 20%, 40, 60, maximum safest effort. Keep pressing, hold that tension, keep pressing. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Now reverse. Try and get that hand off the block. Keep pulling it up, ramp up 20%, 40, 60, maximum safest effort. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Good. Everybody still okay? Good. Thumbs up. All right. There's movement, so good. Let's do the other side. We'll finish off with this one. Same thing, just putting the block on the other side. You might find that you have more flexion on the one side than on the other. So if you have to adjust the block, that's okay for now. This just tells me I've now identified an inefficiency, which over time I might spend a bit more time on the left and on the right to get that flexion more unilaterally. so that I can be more balanced at the end of the day. So let's go into that same stretch. Find that maximum flexion. We'll hold that there for 2 minutes. Keep fighting for more range. Scan the stretch. Right, remember to breathe. All right, let's get ready for that contraction. So we want to take a deep breath in. Back the air down, squeeze, create tension through my entire body, and start creating that contraction. Press that block into the floor, ramping it up 20%, 40, 60, into your maximum safest effort. Press down, press down, press down. Hold it there, hold that tension. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Reverse. Try and lift that arm off. If it doesn't move, that's okay. If it moves, keep trying to push it up as much as you can without using my spine and my scaps to do so. Ramp it up, keep pushing. Hold. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Relax. Good. Very nice, everybody. We'll call it there for now. I still wanted to do an internal rotation. I can perhaps just show you. I know we're almost at time. This is maybe one you can do in your own time. So we focused on flexion. I can now do something very similar for internal rotation. So I'll get into kind of an L-shaped position to allow my shoulder to move. And where I'm putting at 90 degree or whatever angle, but for now I'm doing 90 degrees, putting this shoulder into internal rotation. So I'm doing so passively and pushing it down as much as I can go. And that's my passive range that I'm stretching at. And then we'll do the same. My pails and rails will be trying to press up and pushing this hand away while keeping tension and pressing down. And the rails is then keeping this hand in position and trying to go even further away from that hand. That would be internal rotation. So you can use that as a homework drill if you like. Get some good internal rotation. Again, the same as with the flexion. Sometimes the one is a lot better than the other one. But then at least you know, if I've got 80% on this and 60%, maybe I need to spend a bit more time on this side. Good? Everybody okay? Good? Excellent. Thanks everyone for coming. I hope you had a good session. I will be making the recording available, so you can expect an email from me in a day or so once I've done a bit of magical editing. I'll send you the replay if you want to watch it, if you missed something, or if you want to use this routine as something that you can do. I haven't checked the chat yet. I don't know if you have any questions. If you do, and if you have a minute or two to stick around, you're welcome to take yourself off mute and ask me any questions. Good? Shocked or no questions? Bit of both? Good. Excellent. All right. We'll leave it there. If you have any questions, please reach out. I'm on Instagram. I'm on WhatsApp. Send me an email as well. My email is in the invitation, so please do reach out. Thanks again for coming and hope to see you soon. Thanks, everybody. Take care. Bye-bye.